Hi, Mystery Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror movie called 407 Dark Flight. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens as a young Thai girl named Gift flies her remote-controlled toy plane alongside her best friend. From their conversation, we get to know that Gift's parents want her to study in the United Kingdom. She, however, wants to stay in Thailand and pursue her childhood dream of becoming a pilot. That afternoon, Gift is on the way to the airport with her parents to celebrate her birthday out of town. Her father is a kind and loving man, while her mother is the polar opposite. She is a short-tempered real estate agent who is more focused on business than her family. Elsewhere, at the Suvarnabhumi airport, a talkative and rather zesty male flight attendant named Prince nags a junior air hostess. They are soon joined by a senior flight attendant, Niu, who is returning to duty after almost a year. It is revealed that she has been having vivid hallucinations for several months now. Right before the flight, Niu even consulted a psychiatrist to check if she's fit to go back to work. The doctor told her that she's still capable of working, and the hallucinations might have been caused by the drastic change of air pressure in the plane. That doctor should not have a job. In the meantime, several passengers arrive at the airport's lounge, waiting to board their respective flights. A beautiful young tourist, Anne, who is visiting Thailand for the first time, asks for directions to a monk. The latter feels uneasy since Anne is scantily dressed and moves away without answering her questions. Anne is then approached by a middle-aged, pot-bellied American who immediately misbehaves with her. Luckily, a local young man named Wave comes to her rescue and shoos the American away. In the airport's hangar, a flight engineer named Bank checks the engine of the flight number 407 before it takes off. He is busy preparing his report when he suddenly sees Niu staring at the plane from the viewing gallery. Bank looks at her longingly, and it is evident that he has a crush on her. But Niu has a weird feeling as the airplane looks familiar to her. It looks just like an airplane. Finally, all the passengers board flight number 407, which is headed to Fuck It. Gift, who is sitting behind her parents, is engrossed in a flight simulation video game, but mom and dad are busy squabbling about work and finances. The little girl cannot take this constant quarreling and thus moves to another seat. Outside, Bank is almost done with his last-minute checkups when he suddenly hears strange sounds coming from the airplane's cargo hold. He opens a hatch and quickly enters to check if everything is okay. The engineer finds a random piece of metal lying around, which clearly wasn't there the last time. He is busy checking it when a ghost walks right behind him and locks him inside the cargo hold. Inside the plane, a small child rolls a ball towards Gift. The teenager is busy with her flight simulation game and doesn't want to be distracted. So, instead of throwing the ball back, she puts it on the adjacent seat just to annoy the child. Get wrecked, you little nerd. A few seats ahead, Niu escorts the monk to his seat before attending to a grandma who looks scared. The elderly woman has a fear of flying, so Niu informs the other attendants to keep an eye on her. Seconds later, Gift notices that the ball beside her is missing. She looks for it, but can't find it anywhere. Nonetheless, the flight attendants put on a performative dance while demonstrating the safety precautions in the plane. Once this is over and all the passengers are strapped in, the plane finally takes off. Little do they know, the flight engineer Bank is still stuck inside the cargo hold. Sometime later, the attendants prepare to serve food to the passengers, but Prince can't seem to open the cabinet where the cutlery is stored. Niu arrives at the spot and bangs the top of the cabinet, causing its door to swing open. This gives her a flashback to the airplane she last boarded, which also had a broken cabinet. As she is lost in her thoughts, Niu suddenly sees a ghost-like figure behind her. She gasps in horror, but the apparition disappears in the blink of an eye. The other flight attendants are worried about her condition and tell her to take rest for a while. After Niu leaves the attendant's room, she approaches the grandma who is sitting towards the front of the plane. Gift and the monk notice bloody footsteps following the senior attendant. The teenager can't believe her eyes and asks the monk if he also sees the footsteps, but the latter doesn't want to talk about it and immediately starts praying. A few rows ahead, Anne and Wave have a conversation about a recently released movie. It is obvious that the two have some chemistry going on between them. Wave soon excuses himself to go to the bathroom, where he begins to wash his face. He has his eyes closed and is busy dreaming about going to parties with Anne. Anne when suddenly a pair of bloody hands appear behind him and scratch his face. Back in the passenger's compartment, the pervert American who is also in this flight starts acting weirdly. He suddenly stands up and claims that he can't breathe. Several flight attendants approach and try to calm him down, but this is when his skin begins to crack and his entire head rotates around as if he's being possessed by a ghost. The American then collapses to the floor, so Niu hastily orders her juniors to assist him, but to their surprise, he appears to be perfectly fine. This prompts Niu to breathe a sigh of relief, and she informs the passengers that everything is under control. Meanwhile, Wave comes back to his seat, and Anne notices the scratch on his face. She tells him about it, and Wave immediately asks the flight attendant for a first aid kit. However, the attendant says that his face looks perfectly fine. Wave then turns around, and Anne notices that his face indeed has absolutely no scratches. Underneath, in the cargo hold, Bank sees several ghosts who seem to be surrounded by flying whitish debris in the cockpit. The pilot notices that there's a pressure control warning from the cargo hold. The co-pilot volunteers to go down there and check if everything is okay. Luckily, he finds an injured and barely conscious Bank in there. He quickly escorts the engineer to the airplane's snacks cabin and asks Niu to treat his wounds before heading back to the cargo hold. Soon afterwards, the co-pilot steps on a grayish, gooey stuff and turns on the light to check it. He screams in horror as two ghosts appear right in front of him.
"We see you found our jizz."
Upstairs, Niu carefully takes Bank to a seat in the passengers area. She then returns to the snack cabin, only to see the co-pilot standing there like a statue. He looks zoned out and keeps on muttering that he needs to talk to the captain. Niu watches him zombie walk to the cockpit, but then he disappears midway. As the camera pans out, we see that the airplane now looks rusty and extremely dilapidated. Things get even weirder as a flight attendant suddenly passes out, while some passengers begin to contort their bodies. The injured Bank sees several passengers slowly beginning to lose consciousness and orders Niu to get an oxygen tank. He theorizes that the passenger cabin is running low on oxygen. Bank thus gathers all his strength and pushes the button that releases the oxygen masks. The scene abruptly shifts to the cockpit, where a ghost is covering the pilot's eyes. Back in the cabin, Niu sees a ghost flight attendant offering drinks to the passengers. Worried, she asks Prince to move a few passengers to business class and begins to help the unconscious Bank. Shortly afterwards, as Niu and Bank gingerly walk towards business class, they notice Prince sobbing uncontrollably. Next to him are two flight attendants who are now dead. The whole flight has descended into chaos, which is only made worse by Gift's mom, who begins to throw tantrums. This finally makes Bank realize that something really supernatural is happening here, but he urges everyone to calm down and explains they're just hallucinating due to the low supply of oxygen caused by the plane's sudden descent. Following this, Bank tries to get into the cockpit, but the door seems to be locked from the inside. He realizes that there's only one way to solve this problem: go to the cargo hold and manually turn the pressure up. Niu, who is nearby, volunteers to accompany him in the mission. Moments later, the flight engineer and Niu go down to fix the air pressure, but they're surprised to see that the cargo hold looks old and rusty. They nonetheless need to hurry because their oxygen tanks are about to run out of air. Upstairs, Gift realizes that they may not make it out alive, so decides to have a heart-to-heart talk with her father. She informs her dad that she really wants to study aviation. Their conversation ends up annoying Mom, and she yells at her daughter. But this time, Dad bravely orders his wife to stop, and even threatens to throw her outside with the corpses. Since it's Gift's birthday, Dad sings a happy birthday song while they cry and hug each other. But then, an invisible ghost joins the singing, while an old cart with candles appears from the snack cabin. This shocks the entire crowd, and Wave bravely volunteers to push the cart back. He kisses Anne first, then cautiously nudges the cart away. Everything seems to be back to normal for a second, until Anne begins to act crazy. She is possessed and loudly blames Niu for leaving her passengers to die. Anne then convulses violently and ends up passing out. Back in the cargo hold, Niu also starts to pass out, but not before seeing several ghosts around Bank, who is busy working to elevate the pressure. Unfortunately, the elderly grandma is the first one to die because of lack of oxygen. All the other passengers also begin to lose consciousness one by one. Before Gift's mother passes out, she sees several ghosts in the airplane. After a tense few minutes, the passengers regain consciousness when Bank fixes the air pressure, normalizing the oxygen in the airplane. Anne hugs Wave in fear, but he immediately pushes her away because he's not sure if she is still possessed. When Bank and Niu come back to the passenger's cabin, Gift's mother angrily asks the senior flight attendant what she had done to make the ghosts furious. this. The other passengers also blame Neo for what's happening, so they order her to stay away from them. A lonesome Bank can't stop them, so he just accompanies Neo to the next cabin. As they go to the other side, the duo sees that the entire plane seems to be completely empty. They suddenly hear a loud bang and the screams of ghosts. So they return to where the other passengers are. However, the power goes out, and now everyone hears scary laughter of the ghosts. This is when the wise monk steps in and urges everyone to pray. Even the non-believers oblige, and the entire plane chants in unison, causing the noise to miraculously stop. It's then revealed that the aircraft 407 is the same airplane that Neo last boarded a year ago. In that flight, an unexplainable incident happened where the passengers started acting crazy, causing the deaths of everyone on board except for Neo. The flight attendant was traumatized at that time, so she took a long leave from work and even consulted a doctor to ensure she was fit to work again. Seconds later, several ghosts who look like flight attendants appear out of thin air, creating chaos among the passengers. Unfortunately, Anne stumbles and yells out for help. Wave rushes to her aid, but he's too late as Anne is already possessed. In a desperate attempt to survive, he bludgeons her to death using a fire extinguisher. Wave then tries to open the door of the bathroom using the same fire extinguisher. Inside, a British couple is hiding and desperately trying to prevent the door from opening. Just then, the woman sees a ghost in the mirror and accidentally leans on the wall. This causes the door to open on its own. Unfortunately, Wave doesn't realize this, and he ends up slamming the British man in the head with the fire extinguisher, killing him on the spot. He's distraught at what he's done, but he quickly gathers his bearings and rescues the British woman. They then reach the kitchen where the others are hiding. Meanwhile, Mom notices that Gift is sitting quietly on the floor. She grabs her arm, only to find out that it's just a ghost. This freaks out everyone, and they close their eyes and pray until the ghost disappears. Then, Gift's father and some others decide to go to the cargo hold to look for the little girl. In the cargo hold, the ghosts keep distracting the group as they search for Gift. Bank then asks Neo how she miraculously survived a year ago. She answers that she simply ignored any plea for help and closed her eyes until the plane landed. Meanwhile, Mom hears her daughter scream, so she bravely goes out with the monk to look for her. They soon pass by Grandma's corpse, which suddenly comes to life and tries to strangle them. Mom somehow kicks her away and slams a nearby snack cart on her head. However, Mom has now become delirious and begins to see ghosts in everyone. She first murders the monk who is hiding underneath a nearby seat, and when Prince and the British woman come to check, she launches an attack on them. She successfully kills the British woman, but Prince escapes in the nick of time. He returns to the cargo hold, but is immediately murdered by Wave, who had mistaken him for a ghost. Now, the ghosts of the flight attendants, who had died a year ago in this very plane, show up. The group bravely goes back to the cabin, but they soon come face to face with Gift's mom, who has completely lost her mind. She immediately grabs a nearby emergency axe and plants it into the abdomen of Wave, killing him on the spot. The group runs to the other cabin where they discover Gift cowering in a corner. Mom follows them, but right at that moment, the airplane plunges downward, causing a cart with sharp utensils to roll. Several such utensils launch forward and pierce Mom's chest, ending her life. Following this, Bank makes a hole in the cockpit door, but it's too small for anyone except Gift to fit through. She is initially hesitant, but with her father's encouragement, she goes in and manages to open the cockpit door. However, they discover that the pilot is already dead. Moments later, the ghost flight attendants appear again and scare Neo, who is right outside the cockpit. It's then revealed that the ghosts want to take revenge on her. A year ago, when the plane faced a similar incident, Neo had forcefully closed the door for her safety, crushing the head of a fellow attendant. At this moment, Gift's mom returns as a ghost and begins strangling Neo. Inside, Bank talks to a pilot friend so that they can land this doomed flight. It proves to be a difficult task, as the ghosts prevent the wheels from working. However, using sheer mental determination, Bank overpowers the ghosts and somehow manages to land the plane safely. Finally, he, Gift, and the father get off the plane while it's revealed that Neo died in the scuffle. The movie then shifts to a few months later. Inside the newly repainted airplane 407, we can see the ghost of Neo, ready to continue the cycle once more. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.